Go Pizza presents SDP, the Steve Dangle Podcast, with your hosts, Steve Dangle, Adam Wilde, and Jesse Blake. Let's go!
Well, another week. It's Easter. Happy Easter, by the way. Happy Easter, everybody.
Happy? Yeah, sounds like it.
I don't know, man. This Easter looks a lot like my last Thursday did. Like not a lot happening, man.
Yeah, the funniest thing is people reminding everybody what day it is, because nobody knows what day of the week it is, because it doesn't really matter anymore.
Nothing matters.
Every Monday, I get a text from Drew about, hey, so this week's Dang It is going to be, and I'm like, oh, I guess it's Monday.
Right.
I guess that's the only way I know it's Monday.
Right. What are your Dang It's? There's no sports.
We're doing classic Dang It's. So we're doing Dang It's throughout NHL history. And there are some really good ones. We've done 3 so far. What have we done? We did Patrick Stefan missing the wide open net.
That's the easiest Dang It of all time.
Yeah. Easiest. Well, and then there's Steve Smith scoring on his own net. I think in the
playoffs.
In the playoffs, and it was either in Game 6 or 7.
Edmonton would have had 5 straight cups.
Yeah.
They ended up losing, right?
They did.
They ended up losing, and I think that was Calgary's only cup, or was that the year they lost? No, I think that was the year they lost. Anyway, and then the one we did last week was Patrick Waugh's Statue of Liberty goal, which I didn't realize how embarrassing and terrible it was.
He got caught hot dogging. That's the call, right?
Hot dogging. He did. Well, and then so it was this hotly contested series between these two monsters, probably the 2 best teams in the league. One of those series where you go, okay, this, even though it's not the Stanley Cup final, is the Stanley Cup final.
Yeah.
And then so he blows it. They lose 2-0 that game. The very next game, Game 7, they have a shot at redemption. Red Wings win 7-0. 7-0. He had one more playoff run. It was the next year. It went 7 games against the Wild. Wild scored Game 7 in overtime. Last moment of Patrick Waugh's career was getting scored on.
I didn't know that.
I'm pretty sure that's what happened. I want to say Andrew Burnett.
One of the few Minnesota Wild playoff successes.
It was one of the few times I cheered for him.
I bet they were in that series going, like, their fans were like, wow, it's great to have hockey back in Minnesota. I feel like we're going to get a lot of this in the future.
It was the heart. It was the heart of the dead puck era, because the 2003 Anaheim Ducks were like, we are the most boring team in the world, and the 2003 Minnesota Wild went, you want to bet? And then they met in the Western Conference Final. Jaguar got shutouts in the first 3 games.
Wow, and Babcock was the coach of the Ducks, right?
Anaheim, yeah.
He was.
Yeah, who was this young upstart coach? Pretty cool.
Outside of Paul Correa, they didn't really have anyone. They had an old Steve Thomas. They had Keith Carney on D. Anyone remember him?
I do.
That isn't what I wanted to start with at all. Actually, I wanted to start with something else.
You said you have a story.
I have a funny story. You know, I've mentioned Purolator drivers and all that, because apparently we're sponsored by Purolator and UPS and FedEx and all those delivery companies and everything.
Not this studio. We have our Purolator. They're hiring studio.
Right.
Yeah.
That is not this one.
Purolator.
Right.
We're hiring.
Yes. Right. I mean, they probably should be hiring the amount of deliveries. Could
they hire some more, actually? Because Amazon doesn't ship till like mid-May now, and I need stuff. So,
well,
if you order on Amazon, it comes a lot quicker than the estimated date. I experienced that this week.
That is true. However, I heard a tragic story.
Okay.
Someone ordered my book, my best-selling book, I should say. Sorry.
Right.
On Amazon.
By which metric?
By just the Globe and Mail and the Toronto Star, Jesse. And so this person was very much looking forward to getting my book. They waited, I think it was a week or 2 to get it. It finally showed up on their door. There was photo confirmation that it showed up at their door, and the package was stolen.
Oh, no way.
The package was stolen off of their door. Here, I'm going to make the story funnier. That person was James Myrtle.
Oh, wow.
What?
He ordered my book.
Your book?
I don't know. I offered to give it to him, but he ordered my book. And he was telling me, because he's on the Dangle Navy team along with Mike Stevens. And he's just like, oh yeah, so your book showed up and someone friggin' stole it.
On the Dangle Navy team thing, Jesse, do you recall getting an invite to join the Dangle Navy hockey team?
And not at all.
About that, weird. Jesse, do you remember who coined the name Dangle Navy?
I believe we
Rihanna.
invented that.
Did we not, Jesse, did you and I not invent the Dangle Navy? We invented that, did we not?
We did. We
Which
did
has
on
led
an
to-
episode a long time ago.
To countless people showing up in Navy clothing, sailor
Yes.
clothing,
Yes.
to events and
their children.
anchors and everything. And we didn't get an invite to play on said hockey team.
I don't know why we didn't even
Jesse,
get an ask.
Do you like NHL 20? You like the
Wow.
game?
It's okay. I enjoy
Yeah.
the game. Yeah.
It's a fun game. It's a fun game. So just wondering, I wonder what we did wrong.
Well, we can ask someone
Oh.
in this conversation
Okay,
as
maybe
to
we
why
should.
we didn't get an
Yeah,
invitation.
it's weird.
We're trying to keep the show to 2 hours. So
No.
I don't know. Do you wanna- No, you know what? We do actually. I wish you were allowed to be part of more than one team because Dangle Navy's already got too many members on it.
What
And I wanna
happened
be-
when you had 0 members
Right.
and you were making the team?
That's the part I would like to know about. I don't care about right now. I know I'm not on the team.
I
That's
don't
the
know.
question.
Sometimes, when your friends are really mean to you and say you don't pass, maybe you forget to invite them,
Is that
you
what
know?
it is?
I
Or
don't
did you
know.
just forget?
I think it's that one.
Did all of your new teammates learn that you don't pass?
Oh, no, they're mean to me too.
Okay.
Yeah, no, they just weren't mean to me yet.
See, I'd like to start a team, Jesse.
Wow.
Let's do that.
And I'd like to start a team, and I don't know what we're going to call it yet, but I'd like to start a team. You, me, Justin Fisher.
Wow.
Wow.
Is Ian Tulloch on the Dangle Navy?
He is. Please take him.
No.
He is. Please take him. Holy cow.
Ian made his bet. He's joined the Dangle Navy team. We are not taking
He's yours.
Who?
Is Ian bad?
Mike Stevens.
He can
we can't
pull a
take-
John Tavares.
We can't take Mike Stevens either. He's on it. Tic Tac Tomar's on it. I don't know who else is on it.
Tic Tac Tomar.
Yeah. So-
Mikey has been a good improvement. No, here's the thing. Remember a few years ago, we watched the pairing of Jake Gardner and Roman Polak,
Sure.
and we said to ourselves, what kind of idiot coach would prefer Roman Polak over Jake Gardner?
Mhm.
Watching Myrtle play defense and watching Ian Tulloch play defense, I get it. I finally get it, because Myrtle lacks ability, but he doesn't lack standing where a defenseman stands.
Oh, gosh.
Ian is me on methamphetamines.
You play with 4 forwards, essentially.
Yeah, here's how every game starts with Ian on left D and me on left wing. We lose, and I go, Ian, we're switching. Because he's brutal. He's brutal. He's such a talented player. He's a wicked forward. Scores for us. He even scores for us when he's on D, and that's the problem. It'll be like, I got one after allowing like 4 to blow by him.
Hey, Jesse, do you think Pete Blackburn would join our hockey team?
I think so.
Yeah,
Does
I
he
think
play?
would.
Wow.
Yeah, I think. He plays a lot of Call of Duty Warzone, but
Okay.
I'm just trying to figure out. I'm trying to round out our team so we
Okay.
can go head to head
Really-
with the Dangle Navy
We
team.
should do one big match. We'll live stream it or something.
Right.
You really know how to tear the heart out of my chest.
And
Really?
and you
Wow.
know, in an elimination match, loser
Wow.
has to delete their team.
What?
Best of 7.
Oh my God, please.
Loser has to delete their team. The team dies.
They can't play anymore.
Can't play as a team anymore. Team's dead.
Ooh, that is I'm not sure
You
who
want to
would
put
win.
it on the line. And by the way, I'm so happy I'm on Jesse's team for this one. Because I wouldn't have said that idea if I was not on Jesse's team for this one.
But we've never played before. Like our team. It doesn't exist.
We can like practice and stuff.
Okay.
It's probably pretty good.
I wonder if Sean, I wonder if Rammer, one of the creators of the game, would join us because we know him.
Oh,
You didn't invite him to Dangle Navy either.
No,
He's hosted us at the EA offices in Toronto.
Mhm.
that's true. Wow.
So-
When people could
like-
get together.
I'm just saying, if we could find a few peeps. I know a guy, and you probably wouldn't know him, but I do know a guy that I used to work with on Breakfast Television who was in Division 1, and I probably could ask him to join too.
Wow.
So,
I would.
listen.
I'm up for a challenge.
You got a lot of people there, Adam.
That's a lot of.
How many
That's
people?
A lot of
well,
I know it, guys.
I'm throwing out names. We're doing an expansion draft here, Jesse.
Do you guys have a goalie?
We have 2.
Oh, really?
Guys who actually play it?
Yeah, we have a goalie who's a pretty decent goalie, but he's a wicked forward, and we have a wicked forward who is actually a pretty decent goalie, if that makes any sense. And then there's me,
It
who
doesn't
recently
really
started
make
playing
sense.
goalie. And
No,
I'm
you
bad.
said the same thing twice a different way.
Yeah, and also
Yeah.
it's
No,
a
I
video
agree.
game, so you could just play the positions.
No. No.
Goaltending in that game is
we alternate
flipping
because we're
hard.
friends. We're
Yeah,
friends,
okay.
and we get along.
All right. Well, listen, I'm feeling like we could find some people. If I honestly think we should do a final elimination game. I think that would be hilarious.
Yeah, if the Dangle
love
Navy loses, they have to disband their team. And
Wow.
they're never allowed to play
Yeah.
ever again.
Or
Yeah.
it could be a best of 7 series because we're so starved.
Oh, it would be way better if it was a best of 7, but we do like one game a night. So
Yeah.
Okay.
the game is, this is when the game is, and everybody tunes in
And
to watch
loser
it.
has to throw out their copy of NHL 20.
Yeah.
You have to
Throw it
delete it
out.
off
I'd
your
have to
system.
delete it.
Delete
Yeah, you
it
have to
from my hard
delete it.
drive.
Yeah.
Or in Jesse and I's experience, wait long enough for it to stop working on your own console.
Yeah, just wait for Sony to shut you down.
Actually, this game you bought, no, it's not yours.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm just gonna say, as the co-captain of the yet to be named Jesse and Adam team, the not Steve team, we are looking for you, ringers. So maybe we'll reach out to Nasher, see what he's up to. And
We'll
because I know
be the NHL not Steves.
the NHL not Steves, yeah, the not Dangle Navy.
Not
And we're doing pink slips, like what they used to do with cars. It's like, if you lose this race, you got to hand over your car.
Yeah,
So-
Too Fast, Too Furious.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Wow.
right.
Ludicrous.
Wow.
We're gonna Tokyo drift the shit out of the Dangle Navy. Goodbye.
Wow. I'm going to make a new character that's me with like one of those nose glasses with a mustache. I am Neve Sangle. And
What is that from? Is that from one of those Fast and Furious?
no. It's,
Oh.
No,
it's
he's
from-
saying so he can play NHL again.
me having a clever
You'll be
disguise.
Neve Sangle.
All right, let's see what we can do. Hey, so obviously, there's a lot going on in the world right now, but one of the tragedies in hockey, we found out this morning in Toronto. Colby Cave, 25-year-old Edmonton Oiler, has passed away, and it was a shock to even hear that he was in the hospital. There was,
Right.
well, they call it, from what I can tell, a brain bleed, which seems like too mundane of a term for it to be scientific, but it sort of sounds like how it is. Terrible, sad. They haven't said what the cause would be, and I don't know what a cause would be in that situation. But a terrible tragedy, and something that he was just getting into his pro years. You know what I mean? And getting into his life. 25 years old, you're just starting to live.
Yeah, he just I don't know if you read the post from his wife. I don't know. I hope it's not heartless to say so. I kind of recommend not reading it because I read it yesterday and I just started crying. Like it's the most heartbreaking thing. Like, they got married last summer. They weren't even married for a year. Just got a dog in the fall. It's crazy you know all these things about someone you barely knew anything about. But yeah, man, just friggin' it didn't. I guess I was in one of those moods where it didn't take much, but that did it for sure.
He was an undrafted free agent, and he grew up on a cattle farm outside of Battleford, Saskatchewan. I have a friend from North Battleford, and found his way into a Boston Bruins rookie camp, and basically fought his way into the NHL, and like scratched and clawed for every game that he played. He played 67 total games, and apparently just loved the experience, loved being, they call him a fourth liner with a great attitude and a real team guy. And just one of those things that you can't replace a personality like that. You can't replace anyone, but you can't replace a personality like that. And everything that, when commentators, and Don Cherry was famous for this, when commentators talk about hardworking, put your hard hat on and go to work, this is the kind of guy they're talking about. This is scratching and clawing your way to get into the NHL and live your dream. And Colby Cave was far, far too young. So our thoughts and prayers go to him and his family.
Yeah, he someone he fought in the minors, Pospisil, I think was their last name. He posted a text conversation he had with Colby Cave. So I guess they got into a fight, and Cave knocked him out. And he sent him a text right after the game, like, "Hey, sorry, hate to see that. Like, it's, not exactly what I wanted to happen." It was basically the guy who got knocked out being like, "Look what a great guy who knocked me out." Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
one thing that happens when people pass is everybody starts telling the stories of that person. And one thing about Colby is just all the Oilers just only have good things to say.
They're all great.
Just
And the
about
Bruins.
who he was as a person, you know?
Yeah.
They just wanted to say good things, and all those stories are out there. So, yeah, if you want to relive him through those memories, I encourage you to do. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And if you can make it through that, his wife's post, it
Yeah.
is quite touching. But as
If you
Steve
can.
said, if you're prone to cry like I am, going to be a tough one.
It's
yeah.
something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, it's tragedy on top of tragedy, obviously. I actually think this is something we should do. Friend of the show, and someone who's just an all-around good person, Carolyn Cameron, lost her grandmother to COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And, every once in a while, I think, because if you haven't been directly affected by it, and a lot of us haven't been, maybe you've got somebody, somebody that might have had it, presumptive case, maybe. When you see something as stark as that, somebody who was otherwise healthy, otherwise no reason to be passing away, passes away because of something like this, it really puts life in perspective for you. And Carolyn's post about it was very Carolyn in the sense that you could tell it wasn't over dramatic. It was pretty straight facts, but you could just feel the hurt coming through it. And,
Tough.
that's,
Tough.
yeah. So that's another
Tough,
person
eh?
we'd like to shout out today because Carolyn and her family are no doubt having a tough Easter. And, there's no way around it, guys. It's a tough time. It's a tough time. When your own parents say to you, we've never seen anything like this, like anything comparable to this, that you're living in a special, in many ways in the wrong way, but very special circumstances. And that the next 24 months are going to be quite the adventure.
Yeah. I think that's really important. The fact that you're saying our parents are saying that, people who've been around for 60, 70 years are saying in those 60, 70 years, this is the most craziest thing that's ever happened to me.
Yeah.
It's a moment in history.
I was having a conversation yesterday with my neighbor, and we have a big deck on the front of my house that we split. And so I went outside actually just to have a beer on my own, and he came out.
Nice.
And because I was like, I don't know. I was just kind of, sometimes you got to take a minute and have a breather or whatever. And
It's also one of those things as an adult you remember you can do, but you surprise yourself.
you rarely do it though.
I can-
or at least I rarely do it.
I can just have a beer.
I can go have a beer. Yeah.
I could eat chocolate for breakfast.
Yeah.
I'm
whatever,
gonna
man.
I did that today. Happy
Yeah.
Easter, everybody.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could do that tomorrow.
I can do it tomorrow too. I can
You're
do
an
it until I
adult.
run out, and then I can go get some more. Except I don't want to go get some more. I'm afraid.
You could drive a car if you want.
I
Do
could
whatever.
all
Yeah.
over the place. Sorry.
As long as you stay in the car, I don't think it's that bad. You just
Yeah.
don't want to be getting out of the car.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I was having the beer by myself, and he came out and he said, "Can I join you?" I said, "No problem." And Eric's cool. He's like the perfect neighbor to have because he loves history as much as I do.
Wow.
And I learned stuff from him. And so he's been in the neighborhood he's been in this house next door since 1986. And we
Wow.
start talking about this. And he said, I can remember my grandparents talking about the Spanish flu. I can remember my grandparents talking about it. And Eric's not a young man. So
Right. So he's like what? Like our parents' age, roughly 50s, 60s?
yeah, probably about that. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I remember I was talking to somebody about a month and a half ago up in Perth, where I am often on the weekends. And this guy said, when I was, and the pandemic at this point was on the horizon, but it hadn't hit. And he said, I'm really worked up about this because he said when he was younger, he used to hunt a lot, and he'd go into the backwoods, and the Spanish flu hit like a quarter of the world's population. It was like crazy. And he said he came upon a grave, and those older graves that have the crates around them so that the animals wouldn't dig them up. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
I think so, yes.
Yeah, so they'd have these little fences around them so the animals didn't come and dig up the bodies. And he said he came across one that it was 6 kids, babies, in one grave, and it was all 1919, 1919, 1919. And it's just one of those, it's a reminder that, first off, thankfully, and hopefully this doesn't happen more than about once in a century. And with modern medicine, maybe we can stretch that timeline out. And number two, that this is not an easy time. And maybe, I know that, our grandparents went through World War II and their parents went through World War I, and there were lots of tragedies and lots of different backgrounds and that sort of thing. But that doesn't take away from the fact that this is a difficult time and that the entire world is sharing in this. And
we're seeing those numbers on like a smaller scale, like in New York, where they're just burying people by the truckload next to the river. I don't know if you've seen those images of them using like those grocery trucks to just take dead bodies out of the hospital.
And there's numbers all over the world where now it's being suggested that pretty much most places, it's not even any one country to blame, but it sounds like a lot of different places are underselling the numbers. Like, they died of this.
The resources just aren't available to count.
Yeah.
Well, I would like to think that's the reason.
And there's totalitarian regimes who it's in their benefit not to do that. I mean, China hid this. China hid it, and you would expect China to do that. That's what their government does. I mean, that's there's no politicalness to that. That is what they've done. I mean, they arrested the guy who raised the flag about it, who was like, "Hey, there's a problem here," and they arrested him. And have rectified that, I guess, in their own way since. But he died of it. The first doctor who was and there's going to be a little bit of that. There's going to be underreporting. There's going to be all of those things. But it's just an important reminder that at least with Carolyn's, that brought it really close to home for me.
Yeah, my heart goes out to her.
Yeah, it was just sort of it. Not that I know Carolyn that well, but it sort of made it a little more personal. Does that make sense?
So there's the personal aspect there, and then there's also, I think people in Ontario probably know this story, but anyone listening abroad, when they talk about like saving your grandparent or saving someone else's grandparent, there's a nursing home in Bobcaygeon, Ontario, and you might know it from the Tragically Hip song. And I believe there were 64 residents, and yesterday the 29th died. Like, because there was just a crazy outbreak. There was the nursing home where my grandfather is right now. I had a Zoom call with him the other day. He's 95. It was his 95th birthday, but they had a case, and that person has since recovered. But the whole family's shitting themselves.
Yeah, of course,
because they don't know. And he's 95. He gets it. Mm-hmm. That's it. So
it's tough. It's tough. And unfortunately, there have been some things that have gone on. And I there's no good way to get into this, but I think it's something that we need to mention, and I think should have mentioned over the last couple episodes. But we'll be the happy the make happy podcast in a sec. Give us a sec. Well, this is the thing. The obviously the K. Andre Miller stuff happened about a week ago, as of this recording, and people have rightly asked why we haven't talked about it, and there was no particular reason why we didn't talk about it.
No,
we just haven't. And I think I was talking to Jesse about this before. Full disclosure, I don't know how to broach this, to get into this, or know what to say other than it's horrendous what happened to him. And we do know now that the story has developed, we do know that the FBI is involved in trying to find out what happened there. And if you don't know the story, he was on a group chat, New York Rangers, talking about how I guess fans could ask him questions, and people logged in. And I guess people were able to get on the chat and utter the worst word in the English language in the chat,
like thousands of times. And this is about a week after Megan Chayka was trying to host a analytics conference, and supposedly it got hacked, and a bunch of dudes in like Klan uniforms just got on there and started, racial and homophobic.
I didn't even know that happened.
Yeah, no, it was a closed conference, wasn't it?
It ended up being it. I haven't seen video of it. I don't think we really need to. No. But supposedly that's what happened.
Right.
That's what I've heard. Anyway, I wasn't on it.
But Jesse, you retweeted something from the Penguins in Black Girl Hockey.
Yeah.
That I loved your tweet about it because it was very, very hopeful. So if you could kind of repeat that sentiment and tell me or tell us a little bit about because I mean, you said before the show, there's been a theme to this for this season involving hockey.
Yeah, as a person who's a minority and a ginormous hockey fan, I think it's like I can't watch these things happen without acknowledging them, because I feel like acknowledging them helps change. It'll help spark the discussion. It'll help people realize that these things are going on to these two people. And then, so last week, the Keandre Miller stuff happens, and then that happens on, I believe, Friday. And then Saturday, Pittsburgh Penguins did a virtual meetup with Black Girl Hockey, which included just a whole bunch of people on Zoom, including Sarah Nurse, Kim Davis, Anna Packer, Bill Davis, and just a whole bunch of minorities and women. I thought that was it was a perfect contrast to the previous night, because you see that, okay, that isn't hockey culture. Those people are the outliers, hopefully. Mm-hmm. Now we have this example of what we hope hockey will be, that hockey is for everyone, that we can have these outlets for people who are minorities and do love the game. So I thought it was just perfect to have that contract and believe that there's hope. It's single people who are hopefully just acting this way towards minorities who love the game. Mm-hmm. And I feel it feels important to acknowledge it on another level, because that seems to be the story of 1920. Like, it started off with Don Cherry, and then it went to Babcock with Mitch Marner, and then it went to Bill Peters. And there's an underlying tone of, we're kind of, I don't know if it's weeding out the bad, and that it needs to get to this level so the pendulum can swing back to hopefully a happy medium where hockey does become for everyone. But that seems that way. So if these events keep happening, and then we keep overcorrecting, and then eventually we land to somewhere where we reach where the hashtag becomes real, that's what I'm hopeful for. And the virtual meetup of Black Girl Hockey Club and the Pittsburgh Penguins it brings me hope.
Mm-hmm. Well, it got, man, with the whole shutdown and everything sort of becoming the story of the season, you kind of forget how bad this one was. Mm-hmm. It got to the point where I don't remember which coach it was, but a coach got fired, and the team had to be like, no, we fired him because of hockey.
It was Dallas, Jim Montgomery.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it was him, because he was fired for weird reasons.
Oh, it was alcoholism.
That was the one where they said they weren't going to say, and then he did that interview with Sportsnet.
Yeah. Right. And that's why they said that, though, because it was sort of a lot of, because we talked about it at the time. There were so many people speculating.
Yeah. It was two-pronged. His was basically, oh, don't worry, he wasn't racist. And then
and he didn't sexually abuse anyone.
Yeah. And then it was who was it who got fired in San Jose? Pete DeBoer. They had to basically be like, no, it was a hockey decision.
Yeah. Same with Vegas.
Oh, maybe it was Vegas.
Firing was also a hocky decision.
Oh, well, we had to fire Gerard Gallant because we were just doing too gosh darn well, and that's the way you fire Gerard Gallant. That's just the fashion. Yeah. It was a.
But I'd rather these stories come out and they be a media storm than they just go under the table like they have been doing for the last who knows long.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, and that's created a lot of change. Like, I don't think, where people used to say, oh, well, that's just sports. And I'm not talking, I don't know if they did that in terms of racist situations, but specifically speaking to Marner and Babcock, which is not even close to being on the same level as obviously Bill Peters and what he went through, or what he did to other players before he moved to the NHL level, or what happened to Keandre Miller. But, when it comes to the subject of just treating people right, just because it's sports, it doesn't mean that you have license to treat people like shit. And
I group them in the same categories as just bullying and racism and just treating people fairly, because it's supposed to be a game about fun and coming together. That's what sports is supposed to be. And if you're treating people like that, I'm just putting it to the side of the category of things we don't want in this game.
That's a pretty good, yeah. I mean, you can't really disagree with that. I think, yeah. I mean, that's the hard part, is there's been a lot of, surprisingly, when you think about it, not a lot's been made of that, but there was a lot of demons sort of exercised from the NHL this year in terms of, and I'm not making any particular person the demon, but there's a lot of things that came to the forefront that were pretty ugly and needed to be dealt with, and or
at least named.
Yeah,
identified.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean the problem's solved, but I think I certainly feel like we're a hell of a lot closer now than we would have been if none of this had happened.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I think it's good to look at it from that angle, that we're growing as a collective.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and growing can suck and be painful sometimes. It sucks to hear those stories. I mean, when we talk about this stuff, when we talked about the Bill Peters stuff, it wasn't something. Remember, we had Sean Fitzgerald on. You guys remember that?
Did we have him on?
Or was it Babcock? I forget.
No, he was on the day after the Don Cherry comments, because I remember he was in studio when Ron first addressed everyone on hometown hockey.
Right.
And that was a surreal experience too.
Yeah.
It's like, which incident,
Yeah, exactly.
I know.
And watching it with Sean, who is so smart and so amazing at reading, is like my problem with situations like that is I get too close to them and then I can't see the bigger picture. Sean's so amazing at kind of zooming out and going, okay, but what's the holistic approach to this? What does this effect have on everything else? And watching it and the insights and stuff that he had, it was fascinating to hear him talk. But I have to tell you, after the episode, I was just sad. And these are the things that nobody wants to deal with, which is why they've been swept under the rug for so long. Nobody wants to face this stuff because it's not fun. And hockey is supposed to be fun. But if you don't face this stuff, it's not fun for everyone, which defeats the purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So, I think, from everything I've heard about Keandre Miller, he's just an awesome guy. I hope that is the last incidence of anything resembling that he ever has in his life. Forget hockey just in general. And I hope that this is one of those things, again, another learning experience, like the Megan Shaka stuff, like the Don Cherry stuff, like the Bill Peters stuff. Learning experiences for all of us, even if we weren't a part of the situation, still an opportunity for you to learn from it. So, anyway, it's some tough conversations, but they need to be had.
Yeah.
So guys, I mean,
I'm sick of hearing about this. Yeah, us too. So
yeah,
help us not hear stories like this anymore.
Yeah. Don't be a part of that shit.
Mm-hmm.
There's somebody else, and this is also heavy too, but I would like to shout this person out. Brian Fraser, who is a STP listener and has been for a very, very long time, is currently fighting acute leukemia in Ottawa.
Oh gosh.
And he more recently ruptured his spleen, and he's doing it all without his parents and brothers being able to see him in hospital due to restrictions, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So there was some posts tagging him in it on his Facebook page this week. But if there's ever been a reminder also to stay at home, it's Brian, obviously. He's got to be in complete isolation going through all of this stuff. And we salute you, Brian. It's a tough time for you, but we love you and we're thinking about you. And he seems to be, it's funny. The picture of him is just him doing like the peace sign and he's got the heart monitor on his finger.
You're a fighter, dude.
That's awesome. He's in his hospital gown, just got through the ruptured spleen.
And that is not fun. I have a buddy who ruptured his spleen. It sounds like the worst pain in the world.
Oh, I can only imagine. So yeah, man, the guy's, that's a fighter. And Brian, we salute you, man. Thanks so much for listening this long and keep fighting, man. We'll be rooting for you. Guys, to break away from the heavy stuff for a minute.
Sure.
Are you interested? And I want to know what you think. Are you interested in hearing about who is against the idea of the NHL jumping directly into the playoffs should they be able to get the playoffs started?
I think I know who you're talking about. Perhaps?
You think you know who I'm talking about?
I think so.
Who do you think that is?
Wasn't it Connor McDavid?
Well, he might have been. But I find this answer more interesting.
Okay.
The person who's really not happy about maybe losing 12 or 13 games is Sergei Bobrovsky.
Oh, not happy about losing 12? Why?
Yeah, why? He said, I think it's not fair to jump into the playoffs because I believe there's 12 or 13 more games. That's lots of games. And right now we're in the mix. We have the opportunity to be there, and they just cut it off. I don't think it's fair. You can't just cut off where we are and move right into the playoffs.
He's not wrong.
He's not wrong. He's not totally wrong.
I think he's 100% wrong.
Really? No, there needs to be something for the bubble teams. You can't
Maybe,
cut off the standings
to me-
from where they are because the teams haven't played the same amount of games.
See, here's the thing. To me, don't be a bubble team. Leave no doubt.
The Leafs are a bubble team.
Well, they're
on the
in
right
it.
side of the bubble.
They're in it. They're on the right side of the bubble.
So, Adam,
Oh,
what do you
That's
want
so
them?
sad.
What do you want them to do?
Well, first off, Bobrovsky wouldn't be playing in
Frig
any of those
off,
12 to
apparently.
13 games. He wouldn't have been playing.
Okay, sure,
Right? That's fair.
All right,
He's
but-
played horrendous hockey this year.
You gotta get everybody to the same amount of games played at least.
Or you do what Frank Saravalli suggested and roll it back to 68 games,
So-
which I think I mentioned in the last show.
So if you're a bubble team that won games 69 and 70, frig off.
Yep, too bad.
Wow.
You also need some sort of tune-up because you can't have guys just coming in cold and this is game one of the playoffs, right?
So yeah, I think that'd be sick as hell. I would love to see a bunch of sloppy hockey players playing it, but you're right. They wouldn't do that. Man, do you think it would be like watching a demolition derby if you went right to game one of the playoffs?
Yeah,
Oh, like how
it would be bad hockey.
totally.
It was, and
Which would be
everyone,
great.
everyone would pull everything. Everyone, oh, they're going to be totally healthy. Yeah, until like game 3, and then it's going to be the Kalamazoo Wings against the Gwinnett Gladiators for the Stanley Cup. It's going to be brutal. It's going to be brutal. Hey, okay, here's one. Let me ask this then.
Hang on one sec, guys. One sec. My dogs are barking.
Oh,
I don't know
Oh.
what.
Steve,
okay.
oh,
Yes.
go ahead. No, what are you gonna
No, you want to continue?
say? Yeah, keep going.
Oh, okay. On what date? Because people have been pretty optimistic about this. The NHL has obviously been very optimistic about this, or at least Gary Bettman and the owners. CJ was on last show and he wasn't very optimistic about this. And I got to admit, I'm not either.
Yeah.
On what day
Mhm.
are we going to finally just be like, it's canceled?
I think there's a question to answer your question.
Okay.
Are you comfortable with moving next season
moving it how?
back? So instead
Yeah,
of starting it in October, we start next season in January. How
Yeah.
comfortable are you with that?
Adam, you
Adam,
good?
we're asking
I'm
about.
sorry. One dog gets started, the other dog gets started. They don't shut up. I have to
I-
go and calm
I know
them
the
down
feeling.
and let them know that the squirrel is not going to impede on their territory as much as they've marked it. Squirrels don't care about how much they pee on trees. You're just sort of de-escalating a situation.
There's
I
a lot
apologize.
going on.
Adam,
Anyway, continue.
Steve asked the question, when are you comfortable with canceling this season? And I asked a question to its question, are you okay with moving next season back? I think is the answer to that question.
Well, so the NFL is saying that they may not start games. Well, the rumor is they may not start games till November.
Mm-hmm.
That's the rumor.
Yeah,
So-
like I'm so pessimistic about this, or I don't know if it's pessimism or I'm just like watching the news every day and seeing the update, and like there's so many things that are completely disassociated from what the medical experts are saying. Like in Ontario, I think it was the education minister Stephen Leachy was saying, "Oh yeah, the May 4th return date, we're still on track for that." Every other thing that we've heard suggests that's nonsense.
No,
Like,
right.
there's-
Large events through June heading into July have already been canceled. So
Yeah,
that's
They're
not even
illegal in Toronto.
That's
He's
not a
only-
date. Yeah.
He would only say that because politically they have to hold the party line until Doug Ford makes an announcement.
Right.
So
they
he's
gotta,
not saying that he wouldn't. And listen, I'm no fan, but he is only saying that because that's what they've announced so far, and nothing's changed because they haven't made an official announcement.
Exactly.
I totally get it. I totally get it. I'm not even holding it against him. But at some point, they're going to do it.
Mhm.
The 2019-2020 season will be canceled. I'm
Not
telling you.
unless you're okay with 2021 being started in January. Then you start this. Then you finish this season, say from September to October through the end of October, and then you give a little off season. Then you restart in January.
No,
You can always
November
squeeze
would
it in
be
if you really
great.
want.
November would be great. I think Jesse might be closer to right because we already know we can have a 48 game season that starts in January and have it go just fine.
Right.
Yeah.
It's been done.
It's been done and recently.
Yeah.
That to me would be. That's probably on the range of more pessimistic at this point. November sounds great, but I think the 2020-2021 season is going to get moved back and possibly shortened no matter what.
Yeah.
The 2019-2020 season, there's all these really fun ideas out there. And fun has nothing to do with the facts. Humans are remarkable. We can come up with all kinds of fun and creative ideas. But if we're not allowed to gather, we can't do it yet. The UFC had this fantasy that they were going to have like the friggin' plot to, what is it, Mortal Kombat, or there was another movie. WWE, I was reading last night, they had WrestleMania, but now they're worried about suspected cases in the company.
Yeah.
I just don't.
Dana White was going to buy an island, and then he was going to fly in all the UFC fighters, and they were just going to fight daily on the island.
And just have them breathe and sweat on each other. Like, it takes people to run an island, man. Like,
yeah.
It takes.
Yeah.
You never watch Fire Festival? Come on, Dana. You never. It takes people. Like, washrooms and everything. And what do you think? What do you think? One person, you've never watched a zombie movie in your life? One person brings that shit to the island, over. Everything is over, and you're going to have a fight every week? Like, sorry, that's aside from the NHL, but when is this? I don't think it'll finally get officially announced until June. And by that, I mean the day after the NBA announces.
I'm not wholly convinced that you couldn't do the playoffs. It just depends on where they're at medically in the summertime. I mean, they're not revisiting this until like June, right? It's just not even going to be a thing.
No.
We don't have enough information.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that they're gathering. Now, I read an article today that Oxford University, the head of vaccinology there, they say they're about 80% sure with a vaccine that could be out by September. Great. There's a good piece of hope. I wouldn't pin all my hopes on it, but hey, nice to read some good news.
It would be unusual for it to come out that fast.
Sure, but you can imagine that they're going to rush anything. They're going to anything that they could possibly rush. They're going to rush it through trials. Hopefully, there's no side effects. Usually, it takes 12 to 18 months. But I think we all recognize that these are special circumstances, and we need a vaccine like yesterday.
Yeah.
So,
and then there's also the route of, if we get enough tests, then we can do a lot of more things. Because if you have enough spare tests, that you can really much run anything, and you could have people who don't have the virus doing lots of stuff, because you can be constantly testing them. We're not at that place medically either. If
you're not taking resources away from hospitals at that point, if they because there's a lot of companies making sanitizer, masks, gloves, or everything that you need. If at that point you're not taking away from the medical professionals, the whole point of flattening the curve, it's not that, it's not that this follows any sort of different trajectory. It's a little bit more infectious than the flu. It's trying to keep people out of the hospital and trying to keep the hospitals from not getting overwhelmed, and trying to prevent things what happened with the seniors home in Bracebridge. And so Bob Cajun. So you've got to have all the tests. You got to be able to sequester the teams. Nobody's going to the arena. So that's out. So it's going to be empty. And you got to be prepared for, probably a few games a day. So I would imagine it'd be like hockey back to back to back. I would think they would do 3 games a day. They're going to have to shorten that window to do the playoffs, because the playoffs are like 2 months long.
Here, I got a question for everyone listening. How many of you are so desperate for sports that you have been watching South Korean baseball?
Well, they brought it back.
They did. They brought it back, and it's empty ballparks, and it looks and sounds pretty odd, but it is.
But they did it.
They did it. But my question is, what happens when one player on one team gets it?
Well, I think that they've got the tests done, and I think that South Korea has been a model for how you want to handle something like this.
Absolutely.
They've done an incredible job.
There's a great Vox video. If you follow Vox on YouTube, please go to their channel and watch the video on South Korea and how they completely flipped the virus going on in the country. There are some they're allowed to limit some human rights. They literally have an app where you can see, okay, someone who tested positive for the virus, this is what they did for the last 3 weeks. So say you can be like, hey, I'm going to go check the app and see if they rode the streetcar that I ride every day. And you can go and you see, okay, they were there on November 2nd and that sort of stuff. So there are certain human rights things that they can do in terms of people tracking that we can't do here. But that stuff led to the virus being pretty much eradicated in the country.
Right.
So it's a fascinating video. I'd highly recommend it.
Yeah, I'm down with getting rid of the virus. I'm not sure I'm down with that bit.
Totally.
Yeah.
But still interesting.
Well, and like I saw this thing, they used cell phone data to say it was like 1 in 6 Ontarians or Canadians or something like that had traveled over the past week, which is down from 1 in 3, which is great. And I'm like, man, I'm not comfortable with you knowing that shit. And also, you don't know that someone was traveling for nefarious reasons. Or
no, yeah, that's not fair.
They're not going to a party with Ezekiel Elliott, like friggin' wasn't that like 2 of the Cowboys got caught at someone's birthday party?
Really? No, I didn't see
the story. No.
Yeah, it was. I thought I read something like that last night. Like you can, what if they're a truck driver, or what if they're dropping something off at someone's house, which is still allowed. Perfectly fine.
Well, Steve, as a person who's already skeptical of technology, I didn't imagine you'd be a fan of any tracking.
Goddamn right.
But I have to tell you, Steve, it's
my friend
here anyway.
My friends Dale and Boomhauer also agree with my skepticism.
It's I think whether you like it or not, it's coming, and this is the perfect way to introduce it. Right? I don't like it either, but I have a feeling that this is going to be stuff that. I mean, they have a lot more, and I'm not trying to get InfoWars on everybody, but like they have a lot more information than you think they do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they have a lot more information, and you already think they have a lot of information. Imagine how much information they have. So,
How many people watching this tape up the thing on their computer?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Yep.
I got a little mark actually under for my camera where I tape, like it actually is imprinted on the screen.
My parents had to like rub off the glue so that we could have a Zoom call the other day because we just assume there's a guy, like FBI guy, is just like just watching us, having popcorn.
Well, listen, if he wants to watch me, if he wants to watch me watching Netflix like this,
okay. Thought you were going somewhere else with that, Adam.
Oh, okay, or Pornhub.
What's the report on Adam Wilde? Still watching Tiger King, sir. Oh God, that's not Tiger King. That's not Tiger King at all.
Did he just sign up for Pornhub Premium? I don't know. It's hard to tell. What is that?
Also, fun fact: there is Tiger King porn now.
Is there?
Because it's been a week in the internet.
Wow. Now, is it the Tigers or is it Carol Baskin and Joe Exotic? We all want to see together.
I didn't look into it, but you can go find the articles.
Oh my God, man!
What are you gonna do?
Because it's been a week and it's the internet.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Well, and you know what's amazing is that they were able to do that. I mean, they must have broken quarantine to do that. They turned that around really quickly. You know what I mean? Like, think about that.
No,
I don't think it's hard to produce those, Adam.
Well, I understand that, but you're not allowed to get together with people. So how did you do it?
What if you already live with them and you're frisky and whatnot, Adam Wilde? What if?
I hadn't thought about.
I mean, we all got cameras. The FBI's watching us through them right now. You just press record, get down, and upload that. Get some tiger makeup.
Damn, I bet we would get a lot more views on our videos if we did that, guys.
For sure.
Should we start uploading the podcast to Pornhub?
Can we?
We could just make an account.
Why not? Why not?
Why not? Why wouldn't we? I don't care.
Why not? Why not upload the show to Pornhub?
I think we might have an idea.
Yo, I think there was a radio station in Toronto here that actually did ads on Pornhub, and it was really funny.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it was a little bit more of a male skewing radio station, but they're like, here's a towel, clean yourself off.
Adam, here, sorry, this is Radio 101, man. Can you back up and explain to everyone what Pornhub is, please?
It's an exotic site
for big cats,
erotic
cats,
sites where you get to watch all the videos that your heart desires for free. For free.
So it's like YouTube then.
It's like YouTube, but for porn. And in fact, Jesse, what was the story you were telling me that Pornhub called out YouTube for stealing some of their technology?
Oh, so no, one thing we learned in school, fun fact, is that if you want to, the porn industry is always the front runner for video. All of the like streaming technology that you see usually starts somewhere like Pornhub, and one of the ones was if you put your mouse over the scrubber, the little cursor there, there's a little preview that pops up. You'll see like a thumbnail, and then YouTube took that technology, and a lot of the live streaming stuff that also comes from porn. So yeah, if you ever want to know where video is headed, porn is the first place to have 4K on the internet. So if you ever want to see where video's heading, go to porn, and then it usually comes afterwards to the rest of.
Do you want to roll it way back? Because back in the day, when VCRs were $500 in 1980s dollars, the only thing you could buy for them were workout videos and porn videos. That was the reason people had them. So they didn't have to go to the movie theater to watch porn. They could stay at home, buy it, and watch it whenever they wanted. And from what I understand, and again, my history on this is a bit foggy, Betamax and VCR sort of went head to head, and Betamax was the better technology.
Betamax lost.
Betamax lost, and not the full reason, but part of it was the content available on VCRs was greater, easier to produce, and the audience went towards that because of the pornography videos. And in fact, there was a workout video. I think it was like Suzanne Summers made a workout video in like 1980 and put it on VCR or on VCR, like a tape cassette. And they said, "What are you doing? Why would you put that on VCR? Like, that's for porn." And she's like, "Well, but we think we could use it for something else." And she like sold like 20 million of these workout tapes for people at home.
So
because it was so associated with porn that people wouldn't put like anything on them. It's crazy.
Some dude with a big gut getting out of his car. "Hey, Hal! You gonna be watching some workout videos?" "Yeah, just working on it, Ted." It's crazy. Trying to get in shape for summer. It's July. Yep. Well,
here's something for the future. Whenever the world breaks through on like the uncanny valley, the place between you recognizing that something is a robot and something is a human, it's gonna first happen in porn. Because somebody is gonna invent a great sex robot, and it's gonna feel like a human.
Wow,
they say we're not far off that. There's
it's gonna have emotions, like a
simulated ones.
Yeah, or VR. It's gonna happen somewhere in VR through AI. But it's first gonna happen in porn. So
it's wild stuff, man.
Keep funding the porn industry.
I think this is the first in-depth conversation we've had on porn in the show's history, which is pretty interesting.
Maybe.
Well, it's funny it is sort of funny that that's the industry that is always under the most pressure to innovate. So they create amazing things with extremely low budgets, and then everybody else with a big budget and a little bit more mainstream or a little bit more accepted by society,
family friendly
comes in and steals all the shit that they came up with. I think that's really interesting. And it's funny, that's normally how life is, but they've taken
all these movie executives sending texts at like past midnight, like, "I just had a great idea."
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, did you wake up from a dream? Yeah. I had cheese before bed. Listen, shut up. It's called.
Doesn't matter.
You know that little bar at the bottom. What if the bar at the bottom? What if we? Oh my God!
You can see a little video preview. I just came up with it.
How do you pitch that at the YouTube head offices? Wow, where did you come up with this idea? Well, I can't take full credit.
Well, is Hulu or I can't remember where. Listen, it's a great idea. We got to be doing it. Listen, shut up.
Yeah.
Listen, we're an answers company, not a questions one. Can you please just accept my answer?
That's right. So I don't know how we got onto this conversation.
Nope. Me neither. Me neither.
But I was wondering today, because not a lot of hockey news broke outside of what we obviously mentioned earlier in the show. We want to do a bit of an extended press conference. Are we down with that, Jesse?
Oh, yeah.
We can accommodate such a thing.
Yes.
All right, let's do it.
do a press conference.
We get 25 delicious minutes of press conference ahead of us here.
If we're starting off with a press conference, you know where we have to start. We have to start with Adam's History Corner.
Hey.
Now, I have a backlog of like 5 million questions from listeners, but today we have to do a little swerve around those questions because Bill Maher said something outlandish last night.
He's known to do that.
Weird.
He said that we should call the coronavirus the Chinese flu. Now, that is not the point I'm trying to make.
Jesse believes that, by the way. Jesse believes that.
I don't at all.
Jesse said, please, let's call it that.
I don't at all. But pre-show, we were talking
about Jesse. Racist.
Racist.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
Especially when it comes to sickness. So anyway, sorry, Jesse.
Factual. Yes,
please spit your racist information on our show. We like that here.
So we were talking about
talking about porn. Now it's racism.
So when we were talking about racism, we were talking about the Spanish flu.
Yes.
And Adam brought up an interesting point about how the Spanish flu isn't from Spain.
Was not from Spain
or something.
Yeah.
So
you guys know this story?
You wanted to talk about that a little and not anything to do with Bill Maher's racism.
Well, yeah. Well, okay. So listen, full disclosure, I fucking think that Real Time, his show is very, very thought-provoking, but he's a fucking lunatic. And I don't agree with a lot of the stuff that he says, and that especially is bullshit. And I'll tell you why.
How many times during show prep do you think he just goes, how about this? And he just comes up with some fucking bullshit.
You know, like anybody else, that's what they're paid to do, is to be they're crazy, so they're paid to be crazy, right? Yeah. This is the kind of crazy that sells. And I think in this particular case, first off, I don't know if anybody knows this, but China is sort of a big place.
Is it?
So the first place that this virus really took off was Wuhan. But there is, and it spread very quickly from there. But Wuhan is a city center where people come and go all the time. And as much as they say they know about this, they're going to be studying this for 20, 30, 40 years. Don't be surprised if, in the same way that the Spanish flu was not Spanish, that this did not originate in China. Don't be surprised. It may have originated in China. It may have originated from the bat soup thing that they were all talking about, because China has said no more eating wild animals. Dogs are pets. They've changed all the rules on that. Changed all the rules.
Vietnam down with that rule.
Because the world has pressured them into doing it. By the way,
they had changed it in the past, and then once the world stopped watching, they changed it back.
Oh, is that what happened?
Yeah. So this happened with correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was the avian bird flu, which also originated from the a Chinese region, and then they were pressured by international pressures to switch the rules, and they did for almost a decade. And then once people stopped paying attention, they kind of switched it back, and then now they have to do it again. So hopefully they stick with it.
Right. So the reason I don't like diseases being named after parts of the world or groups of people is because it puts a gigantic target on their back. Maybe not for you and I. Maybe we wouldn't be, I'm going to go. There are people out there who would be like, oh, it's the Chinese flu. I'm going to go out and I'm going to do something terrible to a Chinese person who has nothing to do with it. You know that there are people like that.
I've seen
many people like that.
I've seen many videos.
Right.
Yeah.
So in the midst of, in 3 years into World War I, and this is where the history comes in. 3 years into World War I, a flu started to develop. And the flu, where it developed, interestingly, was a military base in Kansas. United States had just joined the war, and this flu developed. And this patient one, whoever it was, may have spread it to a couple of guys. They moved the entire division across the Atlantic Ocean. And I might be a year early on this. Maybe it was 1918, because that's when the Americans really got involved. 1918, let's say, they go across the ocean. They land. 100 people are sick, and it spreads from there. And it goes to, from what we know now anyway, it goes across lines. It does the international boundaries. It goes, British, French, American to German, Austrian, Ottoman, all the way around. The reason that the Spanish flu was called the Spanish flu is because at that time, England, France, Germany, Austria, the Ottomans, Italy, Canada, the United States all had one thing in common. What was that one thing that Spain would not have in common with them? What do you think? I'm gonna assume that you're not gonna get this, but you're gonna be shocked at the answer. What could be the one thing that those countries all had going on besides the fact that they were involved in the war and Spain wasn't? What was the one thing they had in common?
I have absolutely no
And
idea.
what year is this?
This is 1917, 1918, 1919.
1918. Huh.
What do they have in common? They all had something in common, and it's pivotal, I would say, to your belief system, both of you. And in fact, most people listening to the show would find this to be an extremely important tenement of how we live our lives and what we believe is right and wrong.
Was Spain ruled a certain way politically that was different than all of
You're
them?
sort of on the right track with that. And
Was it-
Spain had a mess of a century in terms of leadership, but
Was
this
it fascist
pre
or communist?
No, not yet.
Was it religious?
Nope. Not
Hmm.
religious.
I don't know.
The reason that it
I'm
was called the
interested.
Spanish flu
Yes.
is because all of the countries I named and all of their colonies, and that's most of the world at that point.
They liked PS4 over Xbox One.
No, but they should. They made the right
Wow.
choice.
Yes.
Wow.
And then Spain was like, no, 360 is better. We've been playing that. And then we graduated to the Xbox One. And we're going to get the
Wow.
next Xbox as well.
Yeah.
I always
Microsoft
thought
for
it was
life.
over nothing. Like,
Yeah, right.
God,
It is pretty stupid.
It's even more petty than I thought.
And
Yeah,
then the rest
no.
of the world's like, no, we started on PS2 and we're the PS3 and now we're PS4 people.
What
Adam, what
Spain
was it?
had that the United States, England, Canada, well, I say Britain, so we're talking about New Zealand, Australia, Canada, Great Britain, France, and its colonies, America, all of them did not have at that time freedom of the press.
What?
Spain had freedom of the press. Woodrow Wilson, the British had the Wartime Act, which I believe was the thing that restricted the press. So they censored the press, so they would stop stories from being reported properly. The French had it. Canada had it. Because if you have too many horror stories coming back from the front lines, nobody signs up for your war. Like what happens when you throw a war and nobody signs up? Then you have to start drafting people. And the United States, and this is interesting, Woodrow Wilson, to me, in my opinion, was one of the worst presidents in American history for this reason. There were a couple of reasons. I don't like the 14 points that he put out there because they were very, very vague. And anybody that knows Woodrow Wilson knows what I'm talking about. And they caused more problems, I think, than they solved. Number two, he put into.
I know Woodrow Wilson from an episode of The Simpsons.
Okay, so he's a guy. So what was it that they referred to him as? What did they say?
He was not popular.
He was very popular, hugely popular,
Really?
hugely popular. Unless you had to deal with him. I think the British Prime Minister called him Jesus. He was like, oh, I have to deal with Jesus, like because he was so.
Let me look.
So focused on his thing. So Woodrow Wilson puts into the thing there, when America goes to war at this point, it becomes unpatriotic, and therefore you can go to jail for criticizing the war effort or anything that could be deemed to harm the war effort. So they put together a very general clause. So if you're reporting on this flu pandemic that was happening in Kansas at the time, that could be considered, because it was at a military base, unpatriotic, and they throw you in jail.
Whoa.
So the only country in the world that was reliably reporting this stuff, at least as reliable as you could in the middle of a world war and at the beginning of the 20th century, was Spain. So that's why it's called the Spanish flu, because the first time anybody heard about it in mass media was from Spanish newspapers.
No way.
Get
Nuts?
out.
So it actually, from what
So
they
they
traced,
blamed them for the flu because they were just reported on
they
it?
were the only ones reporting it. So most soldiers on the front lines hadn't heard about the flu, and then all of a sudden, these Spanish newspapers keep talking about this flu that's really devastating. And then all of a sudden, it's devastating across the world. They're like, well, I guess it came from Spain. And you can see how they would have thought that. But
Who smelt it dealt it a pandemic.
Yeah. And there's pretty good evidence to suggest that the Allied powers, and probably the Central powers as well, knew quite well where it came from and just weren't talking about it.
Oh,
And
yeah.
in fact,
I'm sure
they kept hiding it from the soldiers because that would distract from fighting a war.
And it started in Kansas, like in America?
I believe that's the prevailing thought. I don't know if you can ever prove that completely.
Yeah.
But it was let me just see.
I Googled Woodrow Wilson real quick. Yeah, I was wrong. I was definitely thinking about someone else. Yeah. There was something about the Federal Reserve. I won't get into it. That's Adam.
There was an episode of The Simpsons where they were trying to create a fake boyfriend for Mrs. Krabappel, and they used the name Woodrow as the fake boyfriend because of Woodrow Wilson. And they used a picture of, I believe, Bobby Orr. No, Gordie Howe.
I remember this.
Do you remember that episode?
Yes, yes. And it was a picture of Gordie Howe.
It was Gordie.
By the way, so
there were a lot of like random hockey things in The Simpsons, like a lot more than other shows, and it's because of was it Matt Groening?
Yeah, Canadian.
Yeah,
Well,
he's Canadian.
I just looked it up. Just on the Spanish flu, guys. Sorry to distract you from The Simpsons.
Please tell me you're totally wrong.
First known case, military base, March 11th, 1918, Kansas.
Wow.
There it is.
That's the first known case. Doesn't even mean it started there, but that's the first known case.
And they call it the Spanish flu.
Yeah. Sucks,
That's
right?
fucked up.
Or the Spanish lady, because at the time they said things like Spanish lady. But I that's why I would have a major problem. Well, there's more than one reason why I'd have a major problem with calling something the Chinese flu. We don't know where the hell this thing came from. They still don't know where the Spanish flu came from. And yeah, you can pin it down, but you know that science changes all the time, or that I'm not an epidemiologist, but I would assume that there could be some questions raised by anybody that said definitively it had to have started in this province. I don't think they know what 0 is yet. I just don't know. And beyond that, it's just a really fucking dangerous thing to do and not good. So anybody advocating for that, cut your shit out. It's stupid. Call it COVID-19. This is why scientific names are here, because it has nothing to do with where it came from. Who cares where it came from?
Yeah.
No, Adam,
now, did the Chinese handle it properly? And did they cause a bigger problem than they probably should have? Yes. But the Chinese government acted the way the Chinese government always acts. They try to suppress, and then they went, oh, fuck, we can't do anything. All right, I guess we'll work with everybody else.
It's like when you're a kid and you're like, I can hide this from my parents until it gets into a big enough issue, and you're like, fuck, I have to go tell my dad.
Yeah, like you guys saw Chernobyl, right? Like the Chernobyl thing?
Yes.
The Russians were like, okay, we're going to hide this. Fuck, we can't hide it.
Yeah.
That's how authoritarian governments work. That's what they do. Mm-hmm. So anyway, the Chinese government acted how the Chinese government acts. Please do not label this on a country or a random border that humans have created, or a group of people. It's COVID-19. It's coronavirus. There's a reason why it's scientifically named. Please don't put it in that, because we should have learned from the Spanish flu 100 years ago that that's not necessarily true, and that there's reasonable doubt.
You see all those memes? You see all those memes? It's like Winnie the Pooh saying coronavirus, and then it's like Winnie the Pooh with like a top hat and a monocle. COVID-19.
Yeah. I just say I think they should have picked one. Just one.
They have. It's COVID-19.
I know. But why coronavirus first?
So COVID-19 is what you get from coronavirus. Oh. So coronavirus is the new coronavirus, because there have been previous coronaviruses. And then COVID-19 is the disease that you get from coronavirus.
So coronavirus is the carrier, basically?
Is the virus.
And
then what you get is you have COVID-19.
Wow.
Yeah.
Science, dude.
Technical term.
Good thing we don't have Adam's Science Corner.
I was gonna say, so we just had Chris Johnston on last show. At some point I want to get the hockey guy, but also like a doctor. Like, I think we should have a doctor.
That'd be good. Why not, man?
I do know someone who works at oh God, what's the giant hospital? One of the giant hospitals.
I'm sure it really matters to this story.
A researcher. No, it doesn't. But no, I could get this person on the show.
I'm just giving you shit, man.
Yeah.
And COVID-19 stands for Coronavirus Disease 2019, I believe.
Oh.
Is COVID-19.
Does it?
Yeah. Damn, Jesse. I didn't know that. Anyway.
You made that.
So there you go.
What other questions have we for the press conference?
No. I'm going to pull this one up if you give me
Steve
a moment.
Yeah.
Let's get hung up on a small detail that'll derail the whole story.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I'm definitely down for that always. I'm definitely down for that always. Oh my
Anyway,
God.
the guy that was robbing the bank was driving I think it was a Chrysler.
Camry? No. Oh God. SL. What was? Yeah. Oh my God.
Anyway, it was fast. It was fast. He drove fast.
Fuck, I'm the worst.
No, you're not. I just love you. You're just my favorite. You're my favorite boy.
How could I possibly be? How could anyone stand this?
Jesse's still looking at pictures or at questions.
Can you name Steve and Adam the player directly above Austin Matthews on the list of all-time goals as a Toronto Maple Leaf, and the player directly below Austin Matthews on the list of players on the all-time goals leader for the Toronto Maple Leafs? Now, one is a current Leaf. That is the one Austin Matthews just passed.
So he just passed a teammate.
Yes. And it's all-time goals on the Leafs.
On the Leafs.
Man, I would have said Kadri.
Oh, sorry. I'm looking at points.
You're looking at points.
One second. Let me refresh this. Let me refresh this. All right. So we're going to change the question a little.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4. Can you name the 4 players that Matthews just passed on the goals leader for the Toronto Maple Leafs? All-time goals leader. Just goals. So,
and one of them's a current teammate.
So the 4 players he passed, none of them currently play for the Leafs.
Okay.
2 are legends. 2 are recent Toronto icons, big fans, big parts of the team. Guys love them. Huge part of losing to the Boston Bruins.
Well, not one of them is Nazem Kadri then.
We got 4 names. You can put your heads together, come up with 4 names. Given to me. 2 are legends. 2 are recent Leafs. This is from Marco Di Tullio on my DMs.
I think you're right on Kadri. Kessel's a tough one because Kessel pretty consistently put up 30 goals a year. Matthews couldn't have passed him already. What season is this for Matthews? 4?
Yeah, but he could have 2 40-plus goals and 2 30-plus goal seasons. I mean, he's closing in on 200 goals already.
Do you want his number?
Yeah.
Austin Matthews has scored 158 goals as a Leaf.
I can see a world where Austin Matthews has more goals than Nazem Kadri.
Yeah,
150.
Nas for sure. Nas had the 2 32-goal seasons, but he's also really
he's had some down seasons scoring
a few times.
I'm gonna say
Kadri for sure.
James Van Riemsdyk.
Oh man, even him
because he's not passing Kessel yet. Because Kessel had 4 or 5 30-goal seasons, didn't he?
Yeah, but 5 30-goal seasons is
150.
150.
But we're talking about a big part of losing to Boston. Were both guys on that Boston team, Jesse?
Kessel was, not JVR. No, JVR was on that team.
Yeah. Well, which Boston series, I guess, is what we're talking about.
Well, JVR was in all of them.
2012.
Or no, he wasn't. He was in...
Oh, you said 2012?
2012 Boston.
Kessel.
That's who we're talking about.
Yeah.
Kessel. So Kadri, Kessel, and
Those
2 guys are legends?
With?
Yes. And 2 guys are legends? Or do you want to cut this up?
And 2 legends.
Dave Keon, Norm Ullman.
Dave Keon's a good one because he was a Leaf for a long time, but he wasn't a goal scorer. He was a 2-way forward. He didn't pass Sittler.
Dave Keon only has 158 goals? I'm just saying you guys are way off on that one.
Are we?
Yeah.
Dave Keon's more a defensive guy.
He's got over 300 goals.
Oh, wow. All right, well, I'm going to say Keon because that was my answer.
Okay.
Keon's 3rd all-time on Leafs.
Okay, well, I stand by it. I stand by it.
Lanny McDonald.
All right, so give me your 4 names.
Kessel, Van Riemsdyk, Norm Ullman, and Dave Keon.
Kessel, Kadri, Keon, and Lanny McDonald.
Out of your 8 names, you got 1.
What? Was it Kadri?
It was JVR.
Oh,
hey! That'll be 1-0.
All right.
Wow.
Adam, way to go.
Thank you. I meant it. It was on purpose. I for sure knew.
The 4 players that Matthews passed this season on the all-time goals leaders for the Toronto Maple Leafs were Tyler Bozak, number 31 on the list.
Oh.
He has 136 goals as a Leaf. Number 30, Darcy Tucker, 148 goals as a Leaf. Borja Salming, 29, 148 goals for the Leafs. And 28, JVR, 158 goals for the Leafs.
Borja Salming had a lot of goals. Eh?
Those are good names.
He did. Did you see the video of him? He had like a potted plant and he was doing Russian twists.
Was he?
Ab exercises. He's
Dude.
Gronked.
He's
for
ridiculous.
someone his age. He's like
friends.
almost 70 or something.
Yeah, man, I saw him once face to face at the Eaton Center. He was just there. It was after the Legends versus Legends game, the Detroit-Toronto one. That remember the next day Austin scored in overtime. I think you were there, Steve. I think that's the.
I got to see him.
Is that picture?
Is that the picture we always make
that
fun
one.
of?
Yes, it is. I got to see Borja. Brian McCabe called him Skeletor because he was the fittest looking guy on the entire team.
Yeah, he's in incredible shape. And an underwear model of his own Borja Salming underwear, boxer briefs, in Sweden.
He is 68 years old. He's going to turn a nice 69 this week.
Wow.
April 17th. This friggin' guy played 1,148 games, 150 goals, 787 points as a defenseman.
Wow. That's a lot. That's
and he
crazy.
played one season at the end of his career with Detroit. Boo.
Yeah, because the Leafs were friggin' jerks.
Let's talk about things that should have never happened for 1,000.
Yeah, well, the Leafs were friggin' jerks, man. I don't know what else you want to say. They were the worst. Back
worst.
then, the Leafs were the worst.
They were
Terrible.
worst.
Terrible
Look at that
organization to
handsome
play for.
bastard.
Okay,
Gorgeous.
Jesse, one more question. We have time.
This one comes from Cole Hayes. Cole Hayes wants to know, for the next podcast, could you please ask Adam if he's been washing the lower half of his legs in order to stay safe during the pandemic?
Interesting. That's a very interesting question. And the answer is
No.
I've been washing them the same way I've always washed them.
So no.
So no.
Ew.
I don't know if that's ew or if that's the smart thing to do, but I
Nice.
believe it's the smart thing to do. No, I probably have. I haven't even thought about it, to be honest with you. So
There's little things like, okay, here's one. Have you been receiving packages, A, and B, have you been opening those packages outside?
What?
Because that's what they tell you to do.
is it?
If you receive a package, you take it out of the box outside, you bring it inside, and then you obviously wash your hands. and
Really?
Everything.
So you leave the box outside?
Yes.
Oh.
I mean, you don't huck it into the street, but you just don't bring it in the house. That's all.
What if
I
you
know
did huck it
people-
into the street?
I know people who are disinfecting their groceries before they put them in the fridge.
Absolutely not.
and,
Absolutely not.
And you know
There's-
what? Like, I'm in isolation, so I don't feel the need to do that.
Wash them. Wash them.
Well, you wash your veggies, but I'm talking about bags of chips.
No.
I know people that are doing it.
Simply
You should wash
no.
your hands, not the chips.
No, you wash the bag of chips too.
No, wash your hands.
That's what they do.
I mean, I super don't want to get it,
No,
but
no.
if we get to that point, I think I'm done. I think I'm done. I'm not sanitizing for my own pride. I am not sanitizing a bag of chips.
Oh, that's funny.
I think I super don't want to get it, but like,
Yeah.
if it's, I draw the line at Doritos.
Do you guys
Last bastion of freedom.
have a movie or television show recommendation for anybody else in isolation? I'm going to go first. I've watched the 2 first parts of The Purge. I know there's
Are they
there's-
good?
there's
Oh.
8 parts now or something like that. But I watched
No.
the first 2 movies of The
It's like The
Purge,
Land
and
Before
they
Time.
are really good.
Are they?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Mm.
I really enjoyed them. Ethan
Might have to
Hawke's
watch
in the
The
first one. He does a great job.
That's a guy.
Yeah, he's
Like
a guy.
he was huge for a while, and now
Yeah.
he's like in The Purge.
No,
He
he's
was.
in the Purge.
There's certain actors
he
or
was huge.
actresses that disappeared to one movie series that has like 10 parts
Mhm.
Yep.
forever. Like
Yeah,
all
he's
the
not-
people in Fast and the Furious except for The Rock like do just that.
He's not in the second one, so I don't know if he's in any of the future ones. But next up is Purge Election Year, so I'll see where that one goes. That's the third Purge, and then
I've heard that's a really good one.
Amazon started a series. Now there's a TV show about the Purge, and my favorite part about it is imagining what it would be like in real life. So when I'm sitting there, I'm like, that does
not sound like the favorite part.
But you put it into perspective of like real life. I would think like, oh, if I work at Bell Media would have a clause, and it's like, if you work here, you got to sign your contract. No Bell Media employee is allowed to participate in the Purge. Like it'd be stuff like little things like that. How society would be different.
Is that a thing?
No, but I would think that's just what I think about during these movies.
No, I thought there was a thing in the movie like, hey, listen, if you work at Blockbuster,
right,
you can't go whacking someone from Video 99. right? You can't go do that.
Or like you might your workplace might have like a safe hub on Purge night. If you work here, you can come to this safe hub and we'll protect you and your family.
Purge parties,
you know.
Hey, and the whole thing with plot for a movie.
The whole thing with the Purge
party
thing,
where they're all safe and someone goes in, and that's like it's like Purge meets Saw. Like Alien versus Predator. Jigsaw during the Purge. I want to play a game.
In the movie, the purpose of the Purge is to get rid of like the lower class citizens. So they have like some. It's like it's a spoiler alert. The government is killing some of the. Oh, Steve you don't want to hear?
No, it's all good.
It's all good. Okay,
the movie's like 10 years old. If you haven't watched it yet, I think you'd be okay. Like.
The government sends some trucks to get rid of some extra people, like an extra round of homeless people and lower class citizens, the poor, because normal people aren't doing enough killing. So the government sends out their own military trucks to off people. It's crazy. You should watch the Purge.
Dude, I should watch that.
Anyways,
I should watch that.
What are your two reviews?
I love dystopian shit, man. That'll be interesting.
It's good.
You didn't hear this story, Steve, but Jesse and I talked about it.
I love you, man. The other day,
Jesse and I talked about this story on the morning show. Somebody used the siren from the Purge to. There's a curfew in Louisiana, and I guess it's like 9:00, and they thought the government was doing this. It turned out it was just some random person, but they took the siren from the Purge and started blaring it so the entire town could hear it.
And people freaked out.
Yeah.
Anyway,
cool shit.
And on that special note,
no, you guys got to give your recommendations.
Oh, what's our recommendations?
So, TV or movies?
TV or movies.
What should people watch?
Well, I have just gotten into, and I am way behind on this. Parks and Rec is just so funny. I have Amazon Prime because we wanted the ability to order things in, especially when we had a kid, and it was like, you're just not going to be able to get to the store, and now you really need it. Damn, that show is so well done. And if you're a fan of The Office, it's like The Office, but TJ said it's like a little bit more digestible, like easier to get into than even The Office. It's really, really well done, and you cannot believe it's like future superstar. Like the cast is outrageous. Like it's so talented. Everybody on that show, like there's not a person on that show who's not an enormous star now.
Have you gotten to the season where Paul Rudd is Bobby Newport?
Is he in it?
Yeah, Paul Rudd is in it, and he is so funny.
Oh God, I can't wait.
Can't wait.
So good. Steve, what's yours?
I'm going to say some of my old ones because I haven't watched a ton lately, but there was...
too busy playing hockey with the Dangle Navy, right?
I mean, yeah. And Red Dead for the third time. Got him.
Oh, really?
I got to stop. Schitt's Creek is super good. No Canadians discovered it until it was on Netflix, but it's underrated treasure. Same with Working Moms, another Canadian show on CBC that no one really...
you and CBC shows?
They're good. They're
also
both
Family Feud Canada with Jerry D.
I saw that the other day and it was good.
The National.
Of course it is. Yeah. I really
talk shit about the National again, Jesse. Talk shit about Peter Mansbridge ever. That is my adopted father. How dare you?
Peter Mansbridge hasn't been on the National for 4 years.
The National. No, I know that.
They had 4 anchors on it for a while.
He was on ice surfing more recently than he was on the National.
Yeah.
He was on ice surfing last year. And I'm not new to this party, but if you haven't seen it yet and you're in the mood for a weird laugh,
Kim's Convenience.
No, Heartland. So Heartland is about no.
That's even worse.
No. I think you should leave. It's a great show on Netflix.
Really?
Yes.
What?
I wasn't telling Jesse to leave.
What is it about?
I think you should leave.
No.
It's a guy, I forget his name. He used to be a writer for SNL, and he did a sketch comedy show for Netflix, and it's just fucking really weird.
All
They're
right.
all really weird. I
Check it
imagine if you're high, it's amazing. It is.
You imagine?
But also sober, it's better. Or it's also good.
Okay.
Oh, hey, as long as we're talking about being baked, I tried something last night.
What did you try?
What?
I don't know where we're going, but okay, where are we going?
Cats.
Oh yeah,
man.
you did mention this.
And
I made it 35 minutes
oof.
before I just had to be like, what the...
Not
so
good.
it is a straight up musical.
Yes, Cats is a
There-
musical.
Yeah,
it
but
never.
there's no spoken lines. It's all singing.
Yep.
And if you can't understand them, you just miss the whole plot. The main cat, I'm like, boy, they've adapted to life outside really quickly, and it's fucked. It's just full. Every cat that you see is an actor that you vaguely recognize, and you go, every one of them, every actor, fire your agent. Idris Elba is in that movie.
Apparently
James
he's,
Corden is in that movie. Like, none of these people needed the money. Not a
Apparently he's,
single
like, super
person
naked in it, too.
Cats
Isn't he, like-
needed the money? What?
Isn't he like super naked in it too? Like, don't you see? Some
Aren't they
stuff?
all naked?
So I read, and this was from Seth Rogen getting high and watching Cats.
Mm.
He was tweeting about it, getting high and watching Cats, and someone said that they had a friend who was
I can tell this
hired.
story.
I don't know if this is true. Here, you want to tell?
So tell the Seth Rogen part, and then I'll give you the Snopes explanation.
Okay. So
Go ahead.
supposedly, someone tweeted at Seth Rogen and said they had a friend who was hired to work on the movie Cats because the original edit, all the cats had buttholes. And this person's sole job was to get rid of the buttholes, which prompted Seth Rogen to start the hashtag release the butthole edit.
Now, is that true, Jesse?
Now, so when they filmed the movie, they didn't include buttholes in the cat, so that would be ridiculous. But in some instances, there might be like an elbow or like a knee crevice or just something, a speck on the cat that looks like it might be a butthole. So there might be something on the costume that might be there in one particular frame or scene that might be interpreted as a butthole. So they did hire a couple of CGI artists to go through the movie and edit anything out that could be interpreted as a woman's vagina or a butthole or a penis or anything like that. Anything that could be interpreted that way. But it wasn't designed with those things in mind.
It's so shocking that something so bad could have cost so much money. You know? Also, like, if anybody had ever seen Cats the musical, it was hard enough to follow. Why did they feel like Cats doesn't make sense? Like, if you've seen anybody that's seen Cats is like, that made no sense.
It's nonsensical, right?
It's a nonsensical play. So why make it into a movie?
If you don't know what a jellicle is, going into the movie, you're fucked. And that's a word that's not real. So if you don't know the word that isn't real, heading into the movie, you have no shot. You have no chance. Watch, now we're going to get, what is there, Cats Twitter? Is that a thing?
Are we getting canceled by Cats Twitter?
Are you going to finish it?
I'm ready.
Did I finish it?
Are you going to try and finish it?
No, I don't know. I got to go to the OCS website. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm running out. I don't know.
Well, on that butthole note, we're going to wrap up the show. I agree with Seth Rogen. They should release the buttholes edit.
Release the butthole edit. Release it.
Oh, gosh.
Listen, thanks so much for listening. We'll be back Wednesday continuing to do our show. We're not really sure what the content will be at this point, but I'm sure we can find something to talk about. In the meantime, we are going to start doing a few more extended press conferences. So if you've got a couple questions, send them Jesse's way. And I know we've got a huge backlog to clear as well. So if you have submitted, Jesse's seen them. We're working on it. All right?
Yeah.
It's mostly Steve and I's fault because our answers are so damn long. But
yes,
we love you. We'll see you soon. Bye.
The Steve Dangle Podcast. Follow the guys on Twitter at Steve_Dangle, at Adam WYLDE, and at Jesse Blake. Brought to you by Panago Pizza. Order at panago.com and stuff your face with deliciousness. Connection complete.